we're gonna analyze one of the craziest athletic feats in the history of the world, and we're gonna start right now. Now, when I think about crazy athletic feats, what comes to mind? I think about Bob Beeman's long jump, which we already analyzed in the past. I think about crazy feats like Michael Jordan hitting a jumper to actually win the NBA title at the last second. I think about some of the crazy stuff that Bo Jackson did back in the day. I think about CR7's super jump, another phenomenal, crazy thing that happened, a crazy physical feat. And of course, there's just dozens upon dozens of other crazy physical feats that we've seen, even rock climbing or scaling buildings, things like that. These are all crazy things. I also, when I think about crazy feats, I like to think about speed. I like to think about strength. I like to think about technique and doing these things at very high rates of coordination and in very high pressure situations. And that's gonna take us into this jump, a pole vault jump from Mondo Duplantis, which is gonna be focused on him breaking the world record, his own world record, but also going into some of the other aspects, the first two jumps leading into that, the last three jumps in general from the competition, what's happening with him physiologically, what's occurring biomechanically, and then what can we take away from this extraordinarily athletic feat. I think it's important to point out that pole vaulters are just unbelievably athletic with how springy they are. They can jump out of the building. They're extremely strong. They can do dozens and dozens of pull-ups. Absolutely incredibly athletic specimens. Now, if we look at Mondo here, this is his first jump. I want to say this is 6 meters. You can see, and this is another crazy aspect. A lot of people will talk about, something like ice hockey. You've got a stick in your hand. You have a distal object, or tennis. You have a distal object. You're running. You're going back and forth. There's crazy speeds, rates of coordination. Badminton, same thing. And if we looked at running with an object, how hard that is. Think about soccer, running with the ball versus running without the ball, the different rates of speed that you see. Now, think about a pole vaulter running with a 16-foot pole, a 17-foot pole, running at top end speed. And then think about the force that has to go into their hands. So the force that they need to get to run very fast. And so that's the one thing that we're gonna look at right here.
And the world record holder, Mondo Duplantis, storms down the runway.
Easy, just an easy jump. So let's take this back. This is the third to last jump he has. You get that forward lean there. Nice control, and if we look at the technique in the hands, look at the elbow into that bottom hand there, the control that he has throughout his trunk. Remember, we talk about this quite a bit, dynamic trunk control. We've got to have a steady eye, a quiet eye. Okay, so pole vaulters need to have a quiet eye. They need to have their steps counted precisely. They need to be hitting them consistently. And then they have to have the ability to line up that pole with where they're gonna be planting to optimize their technique. So there's a lot of dynamic trunk control at play. Then when you're doing that with a large pole, you have to understand how you can run with those hand positions while maintaining that proper posture. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna look at his running technique too, like where the heels come through, where the knees are when that down leg comes through there. Okay. And then here you can start to see he's slowly changing his posture as he gets closer and closer and closer. He starts to get a hair more upright, just a little bit more upright. So he's starting to get a little bit higher end speeds. And look at this stick here, okay? You can see the trajectory of the stick. Pole, I should stop calling it a stick, and now he's starting to lower it. So when does he really start to lower it, okay? He's here, it's a little bit higher, and just gradually starts to come down. And this is another thing I wanna call out football players. When you run a 40, when you do a shuttle, when you do the 3 cone, have your steps calculated. If Mondo can run full speed with a pole in his hand, he knows his strides, he knows his steps. It's a closed skilled technique. Same for the 40, same for the shuttle, same for the L cone, okay? Understand that. Starts to lower. Now, right here, gets in the box, boom. You can see here, he brings that knee a little bit closer here. Changes that technique a hair. Right at plant, look at that nice lengthened position there in the lat. Watch him bring that knee through. starts to apply a ton of force into his hands. Then we see that position here that he's in, trying to sit back and squeeze tight, squeeze tight, squeeze tight, drive, 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 drive. Okay, we're gonna back out here, and then the technique to get over the bar. Okay, so that's that 6-meter jump, which is unbelievable, all right? The 6-meter jump is fantastic. Now, let's get into the next one. What do we see here? Again, a little bit more speed.
As Mondo Duplantis goes for 19:10.5, a new championship record.
Let's go back. Right here.
19:10.5, a new championship record.
Just look at how much he drives off. Boom, like that little flick, just like a flick of the wrist. Right here. Boom. Clears the bar. Look how high his hips are. Championship record. His hips are that high. It's a toy. This championship record is a joke to him. It's a total joke. The greatest in the world competed at the World Championships, and he just made the record look like a joke. Okay, so he comes down. Easy, right? Easy. Let's go back and watch this a little bit. Okay, so he's got that. When he starts, he gets a little bit of that forward chest lean. Okay, so that chest starts to come forward. That helps him change that shin angle. Knees are driving high, and I believe that sort of it's almost at this point, he gets in that hip lock position to hold that posture with the trunk while he's staying silent with his hands. And that helps him zero in on where he's gonna be. We also know what he's gonna be doing with his stride rate. So let's go back. Now we can't see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, take off. So he could be anywhere between 18 to 20 steps there before he takes off. Again, just look at the lengthening right there, the bend, and look at how he just took off, how much bend he's already got in that pole, into the lat, into the trunk, into the abs. The technique here, and it's almost like, if you watch here, his hands aren't really changing height yet because of the speed at which he carries that knee through. He's not really changing his hand height yet because he wants to get a lot of that speed to get into the bend of the bar, okay, the bend of the pole. Boom. Here, sits back, and now we just see all that energy into the pole, all that energy, boom, just comes out like a rubber band. Boom. And then how well he controls that. This is another aspect I feel like a lot of people don't think about, is on this turnover right here. Okay, he gets to this point and how well he controls the vibration. It's almost like, I feel like there should be some type of research on, there's some research on wobble, on like mass around, so if you're running at full speed, fat mass, muscle mass, and what wobble can do to your actual mechanics. I feel like this is where we could start to research some wobble in that pole and just how well he handles that. You know, and then from this transition here, the hand position, shoulder flexion there as he pushes hard, gets the hips high, and that helps him just finish that turnover. Unbelievable, great. Now we're gonna get into that final world record jump. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. He knows it, he feels it, he's at Eugene, good situation, championship record, get some money. Mondo, let's see what he does here. Now we're gonna get into this 621. We get a good angle here, look at that. And this is what I was talking about. If you look at his hand position right there, he sort of sits, right? His hands sort of sit in place as the hips rise, or as the knees rise, which then leads to the hips. And then that leads into this crazy trajectory right there. Mobility, crazy strength. And I think all strength coaches have to start to think about, all right, what's he need here? What type of trunk work does he need? What type of lat strength does he need? What kind of strength does he need in his elbows? Man, look at this, in his shoulders. And then maintaining a body weight. So you can't get, a guy like him, you can't get too heavy. You don't want to lose that relative strength component that you have. Boom, look at that. All right, so now world record jump, let's go. Look at how high he cleared that. That's just insane. And I love this metric that they have over here. I love that metric. Closest was at 13 centimeters. So they can basically predict off of that what's gonna happen. Getting the clap going, getting everybody riled up. Let's go, let's see what you can do. We already know you're the best ever. Gets a little bit of rock, a little bit of forward lean right in there. This is a great angle here, great shot. Super up right there as he transitions. As the pole, think about that, as the pole, let's go back. As the pole starts to drop, okay? So he has more of a trunk lean at this point. As that pole starts to drop, he changes, because of that, he's gonna change his trunk position, okay? So that's, you can change and alter the way that you're getting the ground reaction forces based off of what's happening with that distal object. So I think that's something that a lot of people have to think about, even when they're thinking about the difference with a pole versus a hockey stick is obviously the length. Okay, so you're not gonna be able to do that as much. Now, I wanted to count these again. I don't wanna bore people too much, but I do wanna count these a little bit. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, boom. So it is 20 that he's taking based off of this better angle. And now we get into right here. You see that lengthen, how well from his right hand, okay, into his left foot. Then the swing through, using that energy, boom. And again, watch those hands as his hips change, okay? And it's how fast can he get that through, okay? So then we can start to think about the strength needed from this position. And then this, how quickly you can get to this position and how tight you can get with the knees, okay? Right here, boom. Now we can start to do a ton of vertical work. And I think that's the big factor here is he's taking a ton of horizontal energy, right? And then he's transferring that vertically. And that's what the whole goal of this position right here is doing, okay? And then that leads to that crazy bend on the bar or on the pole. He rides that vertical, and then he transfers over. Hips come nice and clear. Now tell me he's not gonna jump 630 by the end of his career. I think he's going to jump 630 by the end of his career, if not more. But I think 630 is probably pretty realistic. I'd like to see the metric on that. Again, the speed that he needs, the strength that he needs, the technical work. And that's the other thing is that when we, oftentimes strength coaches, we forget, you get through these positions as a coach and you're constantly thinking about what can we do in the weight room. But we also have to remember, okay, what kind of dynamic work can we do with someone like Mondo? What kind of reflexive work can we do? What kind of speed work can we do? But ultimately, it comes back to the technique that he has on the runway. And if he can handle that transfer of energy on the runway, then we can sort of dial in anywhere from like 3 to 6 specific movements that are going to transfer the speed, transfer that strength, transfer the good mobility, transfer that dynamic trunk control, lead to better position on the runway. And I believe a lot of what's happening is based off those strides. Is like when his first 3 to 6 strides are dialed in and he can really set up that acceleration very well, then that transition when the pole starts to drop and he can get into an even better position with the ground reaction forces. Now that really sets everything up, but it was probably going to go back to what's the strength that he holds in the beginning to initiate that large amount of acceleration, and then can he handle that from a strength aspect when he's actually changing everything, transitioning from that horizontal energy into the vertical energy. So we just got to think through those lenses as strength coaches, and that's the best way to learn how to increase performance through resistance-based training, but think through the lens of the actual sport. So if you guys need help with your training, you need help with your overall programming, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. You can download Peak Strength today for 7 free days of training, and you can cancel at any time. But the worst thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna get 5 free workouts. And if you're a pole vaulter, you can enter that I'm actually training for, the horizontal jumps or the vertical jumps inside of Peak Strength. At some point, you have to begin your journey to attain peak strength. Because remember, freaks, if you wanna become a champion, you've always gotta cultivate your power. Peace.